Hello. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Day Drinking with Authors, the interview series. I pick a book that I've either read and loved or would love to read and love. And then the author picks a drink and we discuss both. And today, I've got a good little run of romance authors coming. So today I've got Tessa Bailey, and then next week I've got Kate C. Wells, who, if you haven't picked up a Kate C. Wells book, you've got time for next week. But tonight we're talking to Tessa Bailey about her, Tessa and I were just talking about how we're tired. We're all a little bit burnt out. We're just, fatigue is real. We're all sending our kids to school and we're stressed out about that. And, what's going to happen. And this book is the cure for that book, or for a cure for that problem. It is funny and sweet and sexy and tender. And I've got a lot of questions for Tessa, but I'm going to read the back cover copy real quick because my mom likes that. And please ask some questions when we bring Tessa in. If you have something you want to know, she's an open book. She'll tell you. She'll tell you anything. But here's the back cover copy. Piper Bellinger is fashionable, influential, and her reputation as a wild child means the paparazzi are constantly on her heels. When too much champagne and an out-of-control rooftop party lands Piper in the slammer, her stepfather decides enough is enough. So he cuts her off and sends Piper and her sister to learn some responsibility running her late father's dive bar in Washington. Piper hasn't even been in Westport for 5 minutes when she meets big, bearded sea captain Brendan, who thinks she won't last a week outside of Beverly Hills. So what if Piper can't do math, and the idea of sleeping in a shabby apartment with bunk beds gives her hives? How bad can it really be? She's determined to show her stepfather and the hot, grumpy local that she's more than just a pretty face. Except it's a small town, and everywhere she turns, she bumps into Brendan. The fun-loving socialite and the gruff fisherman are polar opposites, but there's an undeniable attraction simmering between them. Piper doesn't want any distractions, especially feelings for a man who sails off into the sunset for weeks at a time. Yet as she reconnects with her past and begins to feel at home in Westport, Piper starts to wonder if the cold, glamorous life she knew is what she truly wants. LA is calling her name, but Brendan and his town full of memories may have already caught her heart. That's good stuff right there. So let's bring in Tessa.
Hi.
Hey, Tessa. So
hello.
I was about to jump in with 7,000 questions, but first let me ask you, how are you?
I'm well. I've got my Gin and Tonic. Cheers.
Cheers.
Up to the oh, yours half gone. You started without me.
It is.
It's like that's like the ice melt. That's not even drink. Like that's just like melted ice.
It was a double.
Okay.
Sometimes I need a little bit of a drink before I start. It's going from I'm in my pajamas to let's talk to people. I need a drink.
Yeah, you got to get in the mood. You got to calm those nerves. You got to get the gab going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I have to ask you. I have 1,000 questions to ask you. But the first is, hold on real quick. The fun-loving socialite and the gruff fisherman are polar opposites, but there's an undeniable attraction simmering between them. Did you just text that to your agent who sent that on to your editor and they were like, yeah.
I think what really sold them was that the fact that I wanted to write a character based on Alexis from Schitt's Creek. I think that when they heard Schitt's Creek, they were like, yes, we want that. It was kind of the moment, that show, when I pitched the series. And so, yeah, and then throwing in, and I feel like the deadliest catch, the fisherman side of it, the king crab fisherman side of it was just for my enjoyment. So they got the Schitt's Creek out of it. I got the fisherman, and everybody went home happy.
you were like, listen, everybody, family, I've got to do some research. Click. Binge watching all the best television.
Oh, all the best television. And Schitt's Creek it just made me so happy. And like I said to you earlier, I watched it at the beginning of the quarantine, and when everything was so uncertain, that show just always ended on such a positive note, and everybody was always so accepting and wonderful to each other. And it's just a happy, uplifting show that I wanted to live in. at that time. So, yeah, writing a small town was just it was kind of a departure for me. And at the same time, it felt kind of just sinking into like a warm just bath, you know, like it felt so good.
So it's funny. I mean, I think we all sort of experienced that at the beginning of the pandemic, much like we're all experiencing Ted Lasso right now, which is,
Yeah.
but what is it that you loved about that you loved about that Alexis storyline that you wanted to pull into Piper?
I love the fact that they have people underestimated her. You know, like I think I love a woman who is kind of, you know, people have counted her out, and she learns to rely on her wits and her charisma, and she just starts to gain confidence by her own actions and nobody else's. Just kind of. I love when a heroine has been underestimated and she overcomes everybody's low expectations of her. I love watching that happen. I love writing it. It's my favorite part of romance. I think, you know, honestly, apart from the romance, I love watching the heroine grow.
Yeah, and there's a great chemistry between these two, Brendan and Piper, where he has faith in her before she does, right? Which is such a beautiful romance. I mean, it's a love thing, right? Like it was just, you know, she was like, you know, you could kind of see and feel her being sort of uncomfortable with his seeing her. Anyway, I love that part of it a lot.
Yeah, I don't think he didn't expect her to have this doubt in herself. And so like, it was almost like he went hunting for the good qualities. Like as soon as she found that out, he was like, wait a minute, like, and then he started seeing her in this new light, and he started like all the good qualities were just so apparent to him that weren't obvious to her. I love that too. I love that he was like, wait a minute, I know I'm the one that told you you're awful, but like you're actually awful.
I've been dogging him for a while, but yeah, because he can't imagine that. I mean, she's so confident. She's so out of his world that, you know, he can only marvel. And then to realize that, you know, she's been, you know, beaten down a bit. It was really a powerful romance moment. For sure.
Yeah, thanks. I feel like she was like, I'm really great in snapshots. Like, I think like that was like really kind of her, you know, I can be flirtatious. I can like have a witty one liner and walk away, like leaving you wanting more. But then she had to like stay there and like keep being herself. And then, you know, like she really kind of grew into her own skin apart from just those one like quick Instagram moments. Yeah.
Did the book change a lot during the process? I know that I think I saw something I don't know, somewhere on social media that there was a huge you cut out quite a bit, like it was a much longer book.
So this is like the longest book I've ever written. It's as it is now, it's 100,000 words, but I went over that pretty far. And it wasn't because it was any different. It was just like, I just kept wanting to write scenes for them. Like the scenes that got cut were like Brendan, when he went, I don't want to ruin anything, but like Brendan meeting Piper's mother, things like that, that I just like roared gratuitous, I think, for me, just wanting to keep writing material for them. Cause I really honestly just connected so hard with Brendan and Piper, that I just love being in their point of view. But it didn't change that much from start to finish. Like, you know, there's always pacing issues to smooth out. And there's always like, you know, like, oh, their motivation's not right in this chapter. Like, you know, you have to, there's always things like that. And there's fleshing out of storylines and plot lines. But it was, you know, it was pretty much I feel like it was a one draft wonder, like in terms of what I normally have to do, you know, like I normally have to really spend some time, you know, rearranging chapters and, you know, things like that. But for this, it had really good bones from the start. So it was, which I was grateful for, because I don't want to edit 100,000 word book.
I was going to ask this a little bit later, but do you think it's in part because the inspiration was so clear in your head? Like you were able to see her so clearly?
Yeah, I think definitely I could see, you know, like I was picturing Annie Murphy the whole time, the woman character, the actress who plays Alexis Rose on Schitt's Creek. And I think that made it flow so easy. But I had the ending in my head too. And I don't know if that's the same with you. Like when you have that final scene in your head, and you know so clearly like how you have to get there. Oh, it's such a joy to write, you know, because like I'll be honest, like half the time I don't know. I don't know where the story's going.
Wow.
Yeah, like I know like where I like how I like the note I wanted to end on. I know I want to, you know, there has to be a grand gesture. I know that I'm going to figure it out. But this one I was like, I know I was like club scene. I was like, he's gonna come to LA. I was just like, I had it, and I was racing to get there because I was so excited to write that scene.
Wow. Well, I was going to say, like, one of the things that I love about you as a reader, and that sort of like mystifies and enrages me as an author, is how consistent you are. Like, and I know that inside the process, we're all like, some books are gifts, some books are one draft wonders, and some aren't. But like, what is your usual process? And if you don't mind me asking, have there been books that you've been like, that was what a piece of garbage, what a you know, in your inside of that book? Please.
There's definitely books that it's like I don't have the same I don't know, like there's something like a spark missing maybe for me. Like I know I did my best on every book. Like I will always put my best into every book and make it as best as like as finished and as polished as I can. But there's just something extra with other books that, you know, it's not always there. If I'm being honest. I mean, I throw out things. I threw out 20,000 words a month ago on a Christmas book I was writing, and just started over because it was so bad. So yeah, I mean, I'm not that I don't think I'm that consistent. I definitely I get halfway through something and I go, well, I'm gonna have to either scrap this, or I'm gonna have to really like knuckle down and change a lot of things, which I hate doing. And that's because I don't plot. So
so that's really you don't, so you get the characters, you get the general vibe, a possibility of an ending, and you just go.
So I start with an outline. I start with an outline every time, and it's mostly just like the beats that I know I need to hit to get to the ending. Like I know like these are the 7 major events in this book. Like I'll say 7, like depending on the length, you know,
everybody
it could change.
Write that down. 7.
I start with the beats, you know, like I have to hit these beats. And so like, so I take the characters, I give them a past, you know, each of them give them a past. I give them the future that I like, where I want them to be by the end of the book. And then I give them the reason they can't be together. And from there I can kind of web it. Like I can kind of web plot. But for some reason, like when I get the characters on the page and they meet each other and they start interacting with each other, it's just never what I thought it was going to be. It's always a surprise. So I end up changing things, and I end up letting them stretch their legs, or those beats will change. You know, it just really, I wish there was a science to it. For me, it's like really, it's just a gut thing. It's totally my gut. Yeah.
Has that changed a lot? I mean, because you've written, 40 books, 50? Where are you at?
I think it's 50. Yeah, I think I'm close to 50.
So, I mean, has that always been your method, or have you grown into that, or have you gotten late? Like, has that always been the way you've done it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've like tried different ways. If I'm writing romantic suspense, or if I'm writing paranormal, that definitely is a stricter plotting process. Like I can't just go, like I'd rather they go to the mall on the scene, like, or whatever. Like it's definitely more mall. That's what this book needs. But if it's something like that, where every little detail really matters for the book to make sense, you know, like I have to stick to an outline more. But when I'm writing just contempt, you know, like I want to follow my instincts on it. I want to go, oh, I thought of something better. I thought it's like a way to make this spicier or more interesting, or flip this point of view in this scene. So like, I just kind of like letting it stay fresh, you know?
Keeping it loose. We have some questions.
Okay.
I'm going to mess up your name, Alita. When you decide to scrap the story, what defines your awful? Does someone tell you? Does someone like, oh, this is awful? Or
you know, normally never send things to anybody before they're done. I don't have critique partners. I don't do that, like, because I'm very sensitive to, like, so if somebody even like hints that something might not be what I was hoping it would be, or like, I think I'll just ditch it, you know? I did happen to send that one that I just scrapped. I did send that to my editor, and I said, can you just read the first 20,000 words of this and tell me if it's not hitting? Because I feel like it's not hitting. And she kind of didn't say that in so many words, but I could kind of read between the lines. And I was like, good, okay. I mean, like, I kind of wanted her to tell me that it wasn't, so I could just throw it away and start over. You know, but then I was like, you know, like, we're in the middle of this weird situation where nothing seems real. So I didn't want to, if my instincts were off, I didn't want to throw out the story that could have been good, you know?
Yeah, I wrote one of the worst books I've ever written over the beginning part of the quarantine, because I like, you're in this haze. You're just in this, like, what is real? Like, I'm writing. Isn't that my job? You know, like, it does get a little surreal sometimes in the last.
It does. You're writing a world that is essentially not, like, it's not familiar anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like, the book that I'm writing right now, like, the pandemic is in it. Like, it's in it.
Wow.
Like, they're past it. They're out of it. But I honestly just couldn't write without referencing it. It was weird. It was just like, it became part of my vocabulary. And at the beginning of this whole thing, I said, I'll never write the pandemic into a book. It's not romantic. It's not. But I'm writing his character who owns a department store. He owns this department store in New York City. And, like, it was just a huge part of, I couldn't write it without referencing the pandemic because of the recovery, like, the recovery to the sales, like, bringing customers in the store, online sales, and how all of this, like, was affected by the pandemic. And, like, it just was so natural to write about it.
Oh, good.
Good. Yeah.
I mean, it's funny when this all started and we all started to, like, look for, like, literature about the, you know, the Spanish flu and all this stuff, and you realize that nobody wrote anything about it. There was no, like, there was the one nonfiction book that we all read, The Great Influenza, but there was no fiction. There was nothing. It was like they just were like, we lived it. You know, like, we're moving on. And I read a lot of like, historical fiction, and there's a lot of, like, dual timelines, and the current timeline is always March 2019. Yeah, I get it.
I envy that. I envy that just cut and run mentality of, like, that never happened. Let's just forget that never happened. I would like to.
Yeah, I think we're in a place where we're going to start seeing it in people's backstories, particularly in contemporary romance. Like, it will be mentioned, right?
Yeah. Eve Dangerfield just put a book out called Begin Again. And it's about, like, they're just coming out of lockdown in Australia, and, like, these two characters, like, haven't been intimate with anybody in, like, a year and a half, and so they're, like, gagging for it. And I was like, oh my God, she made the pandemic sexy. Like, she totally did it.
She could do that. Real quick, I want to go back to It Happened One Summer. So it's funny that you were saying that it's like 100,000 words, because, you know, so much has happened with the romance market, where it feels like romance is shorter, and then anything that's not, like, really short romance is women's fiction. And I was reading that, and I was like, oh, look at Tessa, like, really, because you build this community. You know, she reaches out to her grandmother. She starts to make these friends. Like, part of it felt like what we now know as women's fiction. And when you say 100,000 word romance, I was like, no, that's just romance from, like, 10 years ago. It's the romance we all read.
Yeah. It's like you're reading as much about the heroine and her trials at her job, or, like, her drama with her sister, or, like, you're reading as much about that as you are about the romance. I don't know. And it really adds to it. It adds to your investment in this character's, like, where they're going and where the story's going. And it's nice to know, like, that they have something outside of each other too, you know, like it really, it makes it feel healthier to me.
Yeah, very much. And I feel like it makes all the emotional hits, particularly in this book, really pay off because she is invested in things outside of this guy and having sex with him, right? Like she's really creating a life. So her decision if she's going to stay or go is, you know, there's a lot more at stake.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised that I wanted to write like so many scenes, like the scenes where she's like walking Abe to that old man that she walks to the museum and helps him up the steps and things like that. And I'm like, who are you? Like, who are you right now? Like, don't you want to just write the chapter where they're like making out? But it really just like, I wanted to take her on this journey, you know, and I wanted her to get to see the world in a different way. And like, I wanted other people to like, you know, impress upon her that she has this like amazing value, and couldn't just be the hero. Yeah.
So, so one more thing before we get to other books. You were talking briefly about the ending, and I'm going to make this confession that is a compliment. So I think I got to like, I was reading on my e-reader, and I think I got to like 86%, and I put it down, and I was like, oh, it's the ending. Like, I know what will, like, I know the end. I know an ending, right? And then I let it go for a while, and I was like, oh, I've got to finish that book. And the ending of this book is, I was gasping. I was like, what? Like, it was epic. It was
Thank you.
Like, I was like, oh, here, you know, here's where I would end. You know, and then it just kept going. So, and it like, was that different for you writing it? I know you had said that you had seen that and, you know, you kind of had that vision of it, but was it hard to write? I mean, I get to like the end of the emotional and I'm just like, oh, do people really want, but I wanted all of this, all this stuff.
Yeah, I think my favorite parts of the romance part of a romance novel, like I love it when the hero loses the heroine, like he realizes he's lost her and his world comes crumbling down. Like, I mean, I think at the root of all this is that I hate men. But I love that moment, and I hated doing that to him because I really, you know, I think he had one bad moment, you know, where he was just like, okay, like take some time and think about it, and he walked out, and like he had this moment of doubt that was like really valid because she wasn't all in yet, and but then it's just like a couple of readers have been written to me, and they say, oh, when he comes back and he realizes all the terrible things that have happened to her while he was gone, they were like, that was the most gutted I've ever felt in a romance novel, and but in a good way. And I was like, that's what I wanted. And then I wanted him to have to go and work for it and to get her back. And so that's probably why I was 100,000 words, because it was like the last 20% was like the aftermath of the fight. Yeah.
And it is funny, you know, like, you know, we all have like friends who you're like, no, that's, you know, of course they lost their, you know, of course they're late. Of course they did these things. Of course, whatever. But when you see that person in it, you know, all of that was whatever. You guys read the book, read the ending.
I'm sorry if I spoiled anything, but it won't. Yeah, it'll still be good. No, it'll still be good. It'll still enjoy it.
It's a romance, right? So to some extent, you know where this is going, but it is, I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for you, Tessa, as someone who's probably read 7 million romances in your life. Like, it's hard to be surprised anymore, right? And I was just like, this ending is great.
Oh, thank you. You know, like it definitely felt like that when I was writing it. Like, it felt like this is more than I normally do. It felt like this is, you know, like one for my, like, not one for the ages, but like one for my ages. Like, you know, it felt like this is the good one. This is your best one. That's what it really felt like. So, you know, to hear people say that they thought that they enjoyed it so much, it's really nice.
Well, I'm gonna go back and read. There's this header on top of the back cover copy. I'm reading it on an e-retailer website, but it feels a little, I mean, on the outside, and I know that everything on the outside is different than what it is on the inside, but it feels like this book's really having a moment, right? Like it's really having a moment, and I want to read this thing real quick. So, as seen on E! Online, Pop Sugar, CNN, Elite Daily, Vulture, BuzzFeed, Bustle, The Nerd Daily, Parade, LA Magazine, Country Living, USA
Country Living, that's so cool.
Like, whatever the spectrum is, it is the widest. It's CNN, Country Living.
I know, yeah. I didn't think of that. I'm just like shocked. Yeah. Anytime they send me anything, I'm like, what? Like, what? That's insane. But it is, yeah, I feel like it really, this one hit different. And, you know, I went down to my local Barnes & Noble. I think this was the first time this has ever happened to me. I went to the local Barnes & Noble down the street and it was sold out. And I couldn't believe it. You know, like that's the first time that's ever happened. It's always, there's 3 or 4 copies on the shelf and those same 3 or 4 copies might be there the next time I go in. But this one, it was completely different. I don't know. I think I really do think having Schitt's Creek on that blurb, people responded to that. But then when they got in there, hopefully were pleasantly surprised, you know, by what was in the book. So.
And I mean, I am not wise, but TikTok has gotten a hold of this too.
Yes.
So, like, what's that like? I mean, these are.
Oh, it's a phenomenon. I can't explain. I don't know how Book Talk got a hold of it, but it makes a massive difference. I can't even tell you. Like, it's the kind of difference that when somebody posts a video on TikTok and it gets like a certain number of views, I can watch the numbers correspond, you know, like on sales wise directly from that video. Like it has such, because I like, just for instance, I posted a TikTok earlier and they don't always like, sometimes they just, you know, like 1,000 people watch them or whatever. This one happened to do like 100 people a minute were watching this video.
That I
posted. And that is like, there's nowhere else that you can do that. There's nowhere else. It's just like a massive platform of people. And it's so easy. It's so easy. And it's also so engaging. And I love TikTok. It's actually one of the things that saved me over the winter while I was going through some stuff with the family. Me and my daughter sat down and started watching TikTok and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the platform. It's goofy and weird and like the weirder the better, which I love.
Yeah.
And also it's very much Generation Z, like, and I love that generation. I think they can laugh at themselves. They can be self-deprecating. Like they're not afraid to be silly. I just like really love TikTok. And I think it gets among like maybe, you know, like, I don't know. It seems like the moms, like that I know, just like, I think it's the devil. And I'm like, no. Like there's girls on there talking about like mental health. Like it's very like, I just think it's really good for my child. She's only allowed to watch it if I'm sitting next to her because she's 10. But like, I think it's taught her how to like talk about her feelings and I just think there's a lot of different uses for it. And I got way off the subject there. But yes, Book Talk is fantastic though. It really is.
Right? Well, it's happening for you. Like I mean, everybody always talks about, you know, in terms of selling books or making it, you know, you used to be able to get these bloggers and a blogger's loving your book would sell you, you know, so there were all these things you could push. This is the thing. And it's amazing. It's amazing that it's working. I'm so delighted for you.
Thank you. I have had it for a while and like I tried posting a couple of videos and I was like, I don't think I'm good at this. And then like once you kind of like let go of your self-consciousness a little bit, you're just like, it's really the more spontaneous, the better on that platform. And I'm sort of loving it now. You know, like I just enjoy it. And the way that people interact with you, it's like so, it's just, and it's so quick. And it's so in real time. It's just like, it just feels so, it feels like you're connecting with people in a time when you really aren't able to connect with people. Yeah.
And it is It is entirely a new group of readers. Like this is these are new readers.
Oh yeah, all of them. It's the first book they've read from me. I mean, it seems like 95% of them are like, this is the first book I've read from you. And I'm like, well, what do you want to read next? Where can I send you now?
So speaking of that, so you've got the next book, Hookline and Sinker, which is Piper's sister, Fox and Hannah. Or there we go. Look at that. How do you feel about the illustrated covers?
I think it's great. Like, speaking of bringing in readers that have never read my books before, let alone romance, you know, like I can see more and more on Instagram. I think I'll go look through their feed after they post a review of my book, and it's like maybe 1 out of every 20 books is romance.
Right.
They're not the classic romance reader, but it's made it more accessible, and it's like a gateway drug to romance. You know, like they're gonna get in there. They're eventually gonna start reading the books with real people on the cover. But this is like a kind of like a, you know, like a rope ladder on the way in.
It does. I mean, a clinch cover or a sexy cover, you know, it appeals to, you know, established romance readers, but this does reach out to, I mean, and the tone is right. The vibe is right for these books. I mean, they're still very sexy. They're really, you know, there's some real sex in it.
Yeah.
But the tone and the vibe is right in the way that a clinch cover would not necessarily be right for this book.
Yeah, like that's, I think, the number one complaint with readers is that sometimes they're not that spicy, you know, like with the covers, and then sometimes they're super spicy, you know, like, so they don't know necessarily what they're getting. And I think that seems to be the number one complaint with the illustrated covers, is that like, you know, they go into this thinking it's a rom-com and maybe it's more serious subject matter, or they go into it thinking it's going to be closed door, and then they get one of my books or something, you know? So yeah, it's definitely like, I see when people post reviews now, they immediately list the level of spiciness at the top of the review, because it seems to be like, that's what's the deciding factor for people, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
We had another question. Was it easy writing Fox and Hannah's story compared to Piper and Brendan?
Yeah, it was kind of the same. I mean, it's never easy, you know, but it had the same flow, you know, like the same, like I was really comfortable in beds. And, you know, Hannah, I think a couple of times when we were editing, it happened one summer, my editor was like, Hannah's stealing the show in this scene. You got to tone it down a little bit. And I do love Hannah. Like, I love the scrappy tomboy who's like, just stands up for her sister, stands up for, you know, another woman. And I love that she is kind of like the best friend to this Playboy character.
Right.
And that was so delicious to me. Some of my favorite books that I've written are the reformed Playboy character, which is so funny, because I don't have any attraction to that real life whatsoever. Like, I would hate them.
They're just charming. They're like, yours are charming. Yeah, that's that charm.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Experience versus not. Yeah, like I get it. I get why.
There's always some reason that they're, you know, that they've been like in a million different women's beds. You know, like there's a reason for it, and it's usually some sort of tortured reason. Which again, because I hate men. I hate them all.
We have a good comment here. I appreciate when illustrated covers actually represent the book. These days, I think illustrated covers can be misleading, but I think they're beautiful. That said, I love a good clinch cover too. It's like you read my mind.
Yeah, there's like room for it all. You know what I mean? This is such a massive market. And I think I said a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to somebody, and they said, what's the trend right now in romance? And I was like, I don't think there is a trend. Like, I think that there's so many romance readers that there's room for you know, so many different subgenres, and people can skip back and forth, and there's no longer like, okay, it's vampires now, or it's BDSM billionaires right now. It's just like, it's such a, there's room for all of it because there's so many people reading.
Yeah, it's true. And I think this happens every once in a while, like the barriers, the parameters, everything just sort of is dropped, and we're flooded with like, you know, great romance of all genres. And then suddenly, like arbitrarily, or from a movie or whatever, suddenly it's like, oh my God, everything's a vampire, or everything is a shifter, or everything is, you know, I mean, we're all waiting for, I mean, you can find them anywhere, but like Sarah McLean just had a big release this week, but like we're waiting for those historicals to come back. Like, you know, it just,
right, because of Bridgerton. Yeah. It's like, you just, but then at the same time, like Bridgerton was huge. Historical will have a moment and will surge, but then there's people aren't going to stop reading contemporary. People aren't going to stop reading other things as well. It's like, it just doesn't seem like there's like that one thing, you know, that one trend anymore. Although like whenever there is, like, great, it brings in a whole fresh crop of people. It's like that haven't read romance before, and it's awesome. We get to indoctrinate them.
And then it goes all the way back around again, and then you get to start over again. So now that you've created this beautiful world of Westport, Washington, and we've got Fox and Hannah coming. When does that book come out?
March 1st. So
are you planning more in that world?
No.
What? I mean that happens.
I know. It's so funny because like I pitched it as a duet because I was really just getting tired of writing trilogies. Like by the time I would get to the third book in a series, I would be like, I really just want to write something new. I just like want to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it figures that the like one time I'd like to stay in a world. I only wrote 2. But I have like a new series planned, you know, along the same lines, just a different world, with Avon again, and like obviously, and I think it's okay to say it's going to be a Napa Valley, and it's going to be really, it's going to be lots of fun. Romantic comedies, kind of just really super romantic, super spicy stuff. So
nice.
Looking forward to
That's
it. Yeah.
Great. So, and at the same time, you're still doing self-publishing. You're still publishing your own books. You had The Sweetest Fix out.
Who knows when that was? Last week, last year, I don't know.
So are you doing some, you know, books, longer books for Avon, shorter books for yourself? Like, what is your schedule, and like how much what is your schedule? Like, how do you set up your week or your?
Well, okay. So yes, to answer the first question, I am still self-publishing. I actually have a Christmas book that I'm putting out in October that I just finished this morning. It's called Window Shopping. I haven't it's not a pre-order. I haven't announced it or revealed the cover yet, but it's coming. It's definitely coming.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. Oh, okay. Well, this is going to make me like really inaccessible, but I wasn't getting anything done because like everybody else, like my house has been full for 2 years. Like there's no one's going anywhere. Everybody's always home. And I couldn't like focus during the day. There would be like people coming to the office, you know, my office door asking for things. Now it's lunch. I have to stop again. It's just, so I started getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I write from 4 to 8, and I get more written in those 4 hours than I used to get written in a 9-hour day. I don't know what it is. It's like you get up at 4 a.m. There's nothing else going on.
Yeah, the's no Twitter.
Just this. There's nothing. Yeah. There's no news. There's just sit down and write. And so I write 3,000 words a day. That's what I do.
Wow.
Monday through Friday. I try to take weekends off every once in a while. I'll sneak some in, but it gets it done. It gets the job done. I highly recommend if you can, just turn into a granny and go to bed at 8 o'clock every night, wake up at 4 in the morning. You'll get so much done.
I've been in the same boat. Like, you know, I have 2 kids home from school, and you know, it's not that they're asking, or it's that they're like interrupting that much. You're just so aware of them. You're so aware. And like, you know, I go down to get some food, and, you know, my son is like, oh, what's happening.
I know. And people that they don't realize like that once you're out of your zone, like it's very difficult to get back in it. So even just having like a basic, like we want anything from the store conversation, like something like that.
Oh my gosh.
Then you're like, oh, and then you could just feel it. You could feel it all go, and you're going to have to sit there and figure out like where your character was, like what headspace they were in all over again. Yeah. And they don't mean it. It's not their fault.
No,
they don't want to be stuck in the house either. But
that's where we're at.
It doesn't stop me from getting mad.
I through the pandemic, I go to bed really early, and I wake up between like 5:30 and 6:30 before.
That's
and
good.
now in the summer, like my children are like, if I see them before noon, it's amazing. So
you got it then. Yeah. You've got that time. My kid, no matter what time my kid and husband go to bed, it's like 7:30, 8 o'clock. They wake up. So
like jerks. What
jerks? Absolute jerks. God. But it's so. Anyways, from 4 to 8, that's my time, and it's been working out really great because then. It's like, when you don't get your words in, you're anxious for the whole day. And I don't have that now because it's like, it's done. I get it done really early. And then I could just be like, okay, well, if nothing else is done today, at least I got that done. So that's been kind of good for me, like mentally. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, we're all just playing tricks with ourselves at this point. It feels like, these are strange days. Well, listen, I can't wait to get my hands on Hannah and Fox. I hope that all of our children go off to school and we get our homes back to some extent. And, keep on TikToking.
Yes. You got to get on there. You get on there.
I just said keep on TikToking, proving I have no business.
Keep on ticking, keep on talking. That's your new sign out line. It's perfect.
They just rejected me. Like I'm completely, there was no sound.
They're like, she can't get an account here. You're in. It's so much fun. You're going to be great. You'd be great on there.
Thank you, Tessa, for coming by. Everybody, thanks for stopping and listening. We appreciate it. Pick up. It happened one summer. It is seriously the cure for what ails you at the end of the summer. So much fun.
Thank you so much for having me. As always, it's such a good time. I'm sure I'll be back on soon.
Please. Oh, look, someone's mom. Your mom? My mom?
Oh, it definitely isn't from. Wait, is it from?
Could be my mom.
I don't know.
Our shared mother.
Well, my mom doesn't have a Facebook profile picture, so it makes me wonder. That's her. I'm not mad.
We welcome all moms.
I'm like running back through everything I said, though. I'm like,
none and my mother. No, you didn't say that. You didn't say that. Good night, everybody. Stay safe. Watch your favorite book of the year.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. There's been actually, as I'm looking over here, there's been a lot of little comments as I was about to be done. Someone had I think it's an inside joke. How's Mr. Bowtie coming?
Yeah, I finished it this morning. That's the Christmas book. Yep. That's my Christmas book. Aiden, he owns a department store. He's like he's kind of like a based on Ted Lasso. I guess I just write books based on TV shows now because that's all I have in my life.
You're just being smart and confessing it, using it as a selling tool.
I mean, I just wanted to write a nice man and like a genuinely nice, like kind person. So hopefully I did it justice.
That's where we're all at. That's all we want, or is more kindness.
Yes, more kindness.
Yeah. Everybody out there, pick up a book, read a book, have a drink, stay safe. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.